A powerful documentary, Caregiving, premieres on 330 PBS stations on June 24th. It's streaming on PBS.org and the PBS app. The 2 hour documentary is centered on 6 personal experiences of caregivers providing for loved ones and the challenges and triumph they face each day. These stories are interwoven with the broader context of the cultural and economic conditions in the U.S., leading to a care system tipping into crisis. WBGO will be holding a live panel discussion about the film on June 18th at 6 p.m. More on that later. Joining me today on the WBGO Journal is one of the panelists that we'll have, but he's also the founder and owner of 718 Studios and the director and senior producer of the PBS documentary Caregiving. Two-time Emmy and Peabody Award-winning documentary filmmaker Chris Durrance. Chris, great to see you.
Great to see you, Doug. Thanks so much for having me.
And congratulations first on taking on a topic that deserves so much attention. You're a filmmaker who aims to tell deeply personal stories within the larger systems that shape our world. Now, this is your third health-related doc, and I know you have a project dealing with dementia in the works. Tell me why you think it's so important to address what's referred to in the film as a simmering crisis and the need for a new approach to care.
What's been so clear to me, traveling the country and working on these health films, first on cancer and then on genetic diseases, is the hidden story of caregiving. These caregivers, family caregivers largely, there's between 50 million and 100 million of them in the United States today. But their stories are largely unknown. Many of them feel isolated, feel unheard, feel unseen. And so what we wanted to do was bring them into the light, bring their stories, bring their experiences into the light, so that all Americans could see, really, these are true heroes and see them at work doing what they do for their loved ones.
There's no doubt about that. And I know you assembled quite a team to do this project. The executive producer is Academy Award-nominated actor and filmmaker Bradley Cooper. Knowing how caregiving affects all of us in some way, I'm sure Bradley, who talks about being with his dad in his final days, really wanted to be a part of this project, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Bradley was deeply affected by his dad's experience with cancer. He saw also firsthand that no matter who you are, the resources you have, the caregiving experience is a universal one, and it's going to impact all of us. And so what we wanted to do was bring together, as you said, bring together a team, but share that lived experience, help people think about it, help people prepare. So much of what happens that is difficult for caregivers is because we're forced to make decisions in times of crisis. We're forced to make decisions when we're scrambling to find a place for our loved one to stay, or scrambling to get medical care for them. And so we think that by bringing people together, by sharing these stories, will help folk prepare for this, think about it, be ready, have those conversations within their families, with their employers, and even with their local representatives. All in the service of helping people be ready for what is going to happen to all of us.
It's hard not to watch this film without reflecting back on everyone's own personal experiences with caregiving. My mom, Josie, passed away in March of 2023 at the age of 93, and she was in home hospice care for several months. But the majority of the round-the-clock caregiving came from my sister, Jan, my brother, Don, and sister-in-law, Sue, and my cousin, Marge. And I would only be able to come from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, every so often, a few weeks at a time. And it was draining for all of us, emotionally and physically, for them especially. We all tried to give Mom the dignity and respect she deserved. Bathing, changing her, dressing her, tending to her wounds. All this was overwhelming. So I was thinking of that time while watching the doc. And Chris, everyone in some way can relate to caregiving. What are you hoping this project will specifically lead to?
Your story is so powerful, Doug. And I would not be surprised if your listeners, when they were hearing you describe your own experiences, were thinking, me too. I mean, so many of us have gone through that. So many of us have experienced this. And yet, I bet you and your sister felt alone while you were going through this. Would totally not be surprised if your viewers and the people watching this and had also shared that experience. So I think the first thing that we want to do, it's almost empowerment. It's almost giving people permission to share their stories, giving people permission to say, yes, I am a caregiver. Yes, this is important. For many people, when they look back on that experience, it turns out that it's the most important thing that they'll feel that they've ever done in their lives. And so giving people that sense of that power to share it, that power to feel that it is important work, it is crucial work, giving a parent, giving a sibling that dignity at a crucial time in their life is hugely, hugely important. So that's the first thing that we want to do. Take it out of the shadows, empower people to share their stories, realize they're not alone. And then beyond that, start coming together to inspire change. Talk to employers. How many employers have childcare policies but not care policies? How many schools aren't aware that many of their students are in families with profound caregiving needs? And so when a student comes late or when a student falls asleep in class, they're not someone who should be punished. They're not someone who should be given detention. They're someone who should be supported. They're someone who should be valorized. I mean, these are, as I said earlier, these are the true heroes of our society. These are the people that make our society work, make our society function. So that's what we want to do with this film.
As it's mentioned in the doc, and you talk about, caregiving is undersupported, undervalued, and many people don't even self-identify themselves as caregivers. I know it's mentioned in the documentary about, when doing surveys, you ask, are you a caregiver? Well, you might not even get the same responses. Do you help somebody with their meals, dress them, get their medication, etc.? A beautiful part of the documentary is when the wife of the man who needed 24-hour care says, while he's disappearing, my love for him is growing. That was that was so powerful, Chris, to know that yes, while there are difficult times, you do grow closer and closer to the person who you are caring for.
I love that line, Doug. I'm so glad that you pointed it out. And she says that on their 21st wedding anniversary. So it's a day full of joy, but also profound grief. Uh, and also a day of love, a day of humanity. And we were so honored to get to share that time with her and with her husband, Kenneth. And the same is true with all the other people that we film with from across the country. But the film exists because they opened up their lives. They shared their lives with us and with everyone else who'll be watching. I'm so deeply grateful to them for doing that. Without them, there would be no story. Without them, there would be no conversations about caregiving. There would be no gatherings where people could start coming up with new ideas to change this, to write a new chapter in America's care story.
How did you select the families?
What we were looking for was lived experience. What we were looking for was people who were in the middle of a journey, who were going through change, going through transition. We wanted to show young people, old people, a whole constellation of stories. And so we cast the net far and wide. We traveled across the country. We spoke to many, many families. Um, we were also extremely careful, given the hardship that many are going through, given the fact that people are in often extreme health situations, so we're very respectful of, what families themselves were able to do and able to share safely. Um, and so when we came up with the final group that you see in the film, and then there's 18 short films as well that we've done that are on wellbeings.org. These are all stories that we felt in their totality captured the experience of caregiving in America today.
Yeah, you mentioned wellbeings.org. That's where you can go to see those stories again. Also, you can share your caregiving story by contributing to the We Are Wellbeings story wall at that site. And you can also have social media using, the hashtag share your caregiving story. How has the doc caregiving changed you personally, Chris?
I have to say, it's been the most meaningful project that I've ever worked on. I've made many films about many issues, important issues for America: the wars, terrorism, the economy, gerrymandering, presidential stories. But this one has really, really affected me. We've spent so much time with families who are generally unseen by the wider world. Imagine going down a street and behind every door in that street there is a caregiving story. We've been let into those homes. We've had the opportunity to spend time with these families, times, the most difficult times in their lives, but also times that they're so proud of, the times that have been so meaningful to them. You'll have experienced that with your mother and with what you and your sister went through. You know what I'm talking about. And I got to share that, and not just share that, but also bring that to the wider world. So I felt this great responsibility as well when doing this story. I hope this is about, is going to make me a better friend, a better parent, a better spouse. Um, because caregiving really should infuse all parts of our life. We should be thinking about caregiving when we say hi to someone, to some stranger that we pass in the street, or when we hold the door open for someone, or when we hear of a neighbor who perhaps is going through hard times and just send a meal round. I think all of these things ultimately are caregiving and are things that we should be leaning into collectively as a society. I think we'll all be better off for that. So that's, for me, one of the big takeaways from this project. And I hope I live that experience having made this film.
Another thing I love about the documentary is I'm a lover of history, and you intertwine the historical contents in a context of what it means to care for someone, to have, what Social Security was all about, with health insurance all about, and you lay it all out there as well. I think it's important because people need to have that sense of history, and as we move into, all kinds of different eras, having that background will help move the movement towards a better caregiving. I'm sure you agree. It's why it's in the film.
I have to say it was one of the most eye-opening parts of making this film for me. We knew that we wanted to help people understand the context of caregiving, help people understand why they had to deal with a patchwork, this really challenging, expensive patchwork system that so many families have to deal with. And so we set about asking why and how did it come about? How did this happen? And what we found was that there were no simple answers. What we found was also that no one really had told this story. And when you study history, when you're brought up here and you study the history of our country, we're not taught the history of care. When we're taught about the Great Depression, we're taught about Wall Street, we're taught about the crash, we're taught about unemployment, but we're not taught about it in terms of care, in terms of the Social Security Act that emerged from it. We're not taught about how Medicare and Medicaid came into being. Most people come to 65 and Medicare eligibility and assume that it will cover caregiving, but it doesn't. It's this rather jolting shock for so many families when they realize that financially, physically, emotionally, they're actually on their own. And so this history is not just it's not just storytelling for the sake of storytelling. I hope it helps people prepare, helps people understand how we've got where we are, the great achievements that have been made in our past, but also the challenges that lie ahead, and give people a sense that they too can be a part of writing this, as I said a moment ago, writing this next chapter in America's care story, because it really is on all of us to write the future of the country that we want to live in.
I'm not going to tell you who because you have to watch the doc, but there is a specific woman who is responsible for a lot of the changes that happen with the Social Security Act and caregiving itself. You'll have to watch the doc to find that out. But while we're on the subject of women, women, a lot of I don't know why it is they're just their makeup, but women are wonderful caregivers, and men have to do it too. but women seem to take on this responsibility so lovingly.
They're the backbone. Women are the backbone of this country, and their work largely goes unrecognized. And in the case of family caregivers, largely unpaid. There are some states that do compensate family caregivers, but not many and not enough. And in the case of professional caregivers, there's largely women and minorities, and they are most definitely underpaid and under-rewarded, given the importance, the value of the work that they do. There's deep historical reasons for that. Another reason why we wanted to tell the story of how we got here. But this is also something that I think we can start to change. We do tell the story. There are many male caregivers. Their work is often underappreciated, unrecognized by employers, made difficult by employers who don't have comprehensive care policies. And so what I'm hoping is, or one of the things that I'm hoping is that by airing this, by bringing these stories into the light, by sharing them, we can help people think afresh and help people work in their communities, have conversations within their own families about who's taking on the care, what care burdens and why, and how to share it out within their communities, in their workplaces, in their states, and across the country. That these thousands and thousands of conversations that will happen will help us collectively change the story.
Caregiving is a production of Bradley Cooper's production company, Leah Pictures, and the public media station WETA in Washington, D.C., in association with ARC Media. And we're here talking with the director of the documentary Caregiving. And that is the wonderful Chris Durrance. Chris, I give you so much credit because you could be doing documentaries on any topic you wanted these days, as a two-time Emmy and Peabody Award-winning documentarian, that you chose this topic. Obviously, it has an impact on me and will have an impact on so many others. You picked the right topic, is what I'm saying.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have this conversation with you. It's wonderful to hear your experience. I'm sure that your own story will resonate with so many of the people who are listening to your show. And this is the reason, it's conversations like this that frankly is the reason why I make films and why this film is so important to me. It's what happens when the film is made. It's what the film sparks in people. It's how it resonates. It's how it can bring people together. It's how it can inspire people to think afresh, to think about the caregiving in their life, in their neighbors' lives, their colleagues at work, and how they might help. That's why I do it. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. And the documentary Caregiving premieres on 330 PBS stations on June 24th. It's streaming on PBS.org and the PBS app. And once again, we'll have a live panel discussion. We'll continue our conversation with Chris Durrance. He'll be one of our guests on our panel, and that will be on June 18th at 6 p.m. right here on WBGO and all around the world at WBGO.org. It's been an honor talking to you, Chris, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. Pleasure's mine. It was great speaking with you.